Woo! New decade! We did it! 2020! Man, it started out great, and then...
COVID-19, the disease that defined our lives in 2020.
That the veteran pilot may have been disoriented in the fall.
Asian giant hornets, nicknamed murder hornets.
The FDA now is urging people not to drink bleach.
I had my days of drinking. I had my days of meth.
Well, yeah, me too, everyone. I personally had a really hard time in 2020. It was a mix of mental health, physical health, being concerned about my physical health, being very concerned about the physical health of everyone around me. My financial situation was in absolute turmoil, compounded with being just physically isolated from any other human or human touch for weeks on end, and just overall a panic and malaise as any form of control over my life I had just instantly vanished. Maybe some of you can relate with any of that. Weirdly enough, given that Amberlynn is someone that works online exclusively, being a very pitiful individual orbiting 600 pounds, I don't really think they had any of the problems I had in 2020. They had their own personal struggles, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate with some of those, or at least sympathize and empathize with. But just like every year since we started, I really think she would have benefited from any form of environmental variety and enrichment. I mean, we haven't really seen either of those two for years, but we did see her move in 2020. That's at least a different environment for us, kinda. Maybe somebody should have taken a page out of like what zoos do when they fill a pumpkin full of raw meat and let the jungle cats play with it as a form of mental stimulation and enrichment. That would have been a nice fun workout for her to do. Anything was better than her just sitting in bed eating alone midday. Watching that last year in 2019 was harrowing. And that's saying something when Amber gets the big C this year. Rules are the same as always. If it's mentioned or shown, the weight is marked down. No decimal points. She's 0.2 or 0.9. That doesn't really mean anything when you're 500 pounds, in my opinion. If there's a time period where we aren't shown anything or told anything, I'm just going to do a direct A to B from the last weigh-in to the most recent one. Who knows what fluctuations occur in the middle? That doesn't matter. That's not the end result.
Try to prevent the spread of coronavirus.
Confirms the first American death.
Enrichment is anything we do to make life more interesting for the animals and to make it different from the day before. We look at their natural behaviors and we think about things we want to give them an opportunity to do here and behaviors we want to encourage.
Oh my God. I am never gonna financially recover from this.
You know, I made it. I made it to 2020. I want to be less of a joke to people. I feel like I'm such a big joke to YouTubers, to viewers, to people just in general. I just feel like people watch me and they're just like, this girl is a joke, like what? I have been finding personal strengths within myself that has actually shocked me. I have found willpower and determination. I want a better future for myself. I'm gonna be 30 this year and it's terrifying, honestly. I have womb cancer, which is cancer in the womb. And I would do anything, fucking anything not to have this. And I will be eating Subway, so don't get mad at me. I did try to choose a healthier option. I don't know, I'm just like freaking out. The surgeon told Becky that the surgery went perfect. That honestly shocks me. It's gonna be 3 months until I feel back to normal, but it will take about 6 weeks, so a month and a half to heal. Thank you guys so much for the positivity and all the get well wishes. So we have moved into our place. Is how much she has done. She still has all these weird pieces here. Ever since after my surgery, my lymphedema is a lot bigger. It's a lot bigger. Is this a weight loss channel? That's a question that we need to figure out, y'all. Let's give it a go. What? Got some chocolate coated chocolate chip cookie dunkers. Got some way more chocolate chip cookies. And I think with everything going on, it's almost like my weight loss was put on the back burner in the last 2 months, but they said that I need to see a counselor long enough to heal completely the things that cause me to binge. I've been told that a lot. Weight loss surgery isn't gonna cure binging. Like, I totally get that. Like, weight loss surgery is a tool, and I wanted to use that tool. I was gonna get weight loss surgery. I went through, you know, the tests, and I was ready to go see more doctors and just really get this thing going. I was so disheartened. They want me to thoroughly heal from these demons, and honestly, that's gonna take a long time. This ain't gonna work.
"2020 starts off great, with around 20 pounds lost, which feels really wrong to say given I'm talking about a 5'3" woman being 540 pounds and considering that great. She was in the 560s in October of 2019, and then she got down to 540 by January 6th of the next year, the first time we see an actual drop in weight from one year to the next. Then they just kept on trucking along and lost an additional 20 pounds by the end of January. Whatever she was doing was working, since she did successfully lose weight very quickly. And by the end of Q1, they got to the 400s again. That's a number we haven't seen since April of 2018. So that was amazing. Good job. Good work. You did it.
I'm proud of you, you know that. I hope you do.
We see her slowly but surely lose weight and then plateau, which is normal. And it's not 570. The bar is super low. So floating at 500 pounds for a month is better than anything we saw last year or the years previous. Actually, all of the second quarter is just orbiting that number. Q3 begins with a very unfortunate set of circumstances that makes it a time period just overall incomparable to previous years. Her unfortunate diagnosis of uterine cancer was scary. It was a real threat to her mortality, and not just some hypothetical thing she spends all night worrying about. Because of her cancer, she needed an invasive hysterectomy, recovering from that surgery, and then resting in their new apartment in Lexington with Bex. This series of events was the most incredibly depressing factor needed for them to be under 500 pounds for most of Q3. I say most, since we have no data in September, but I can probably guess why. In typical Q4 Amberlynn Reid fashion, she didn't track or at least share her weight and was back to the 500s and 510s by November, where she weighed in 5 times and lost 5 pounds, where we just don't see her checking again until the next year. The second she had bodily autonomy, her garbage pail diet resumed, is all I can base this quarter on. Q1 is the first time since 2014 she was losing weight consistently. The misery of being almost 600 pounds was clearly a tipping point, one we all could visibly see affecting their day-to-day. It got them into some type of gear. Maybe not a high gear, but it's the first time she hasn't gained mid-January or plateaued. Usually we see that fun little spike. I don't think this momentum of weight loss had anything to do with her knowing she had cancer. I think the fear of her own mobility just leaving her was enough of a motivator. So she scared herself enough to maintain a lower weight. Not a weight that's appropriate in any way, but this was enough to see Q2 and Q3 have a rare loss instead of a gain. Q3 begins with her cancer diagnosis. Her audience did have sympathy, they rallied. Cancer sucks. I mean, so does Amber, but cancer sucks more. I'm making that a declarative statement. She's an adult with a very large income. Sympathy for her choosing to neglect her health like an immature child wasn't something a lot of people could willingly sympathize with. Like I mentioned in the beginning, a lot of us were really struggling in 2020. Amberlynn kind of lived in a weird world of privilege where COVID really didn't up her day-to-day like it did for so many of us.
So as you guys know, I'm constantly debating back and forth. Should I cut my hair? Should I not? Blah, blah, blah. I like my long hair, but I want to go short.
It was just unfortunate to see that the only time they were able to maintain being under 500 pounds was being hospitalized, recovering from surgery, and recovering from cancer. But don't worry, we do have a sense of normalcy and at least predictability in 2020 still. Amberlynn was back on her usual self following the pattern of gaining weight in Q4, before little tracking, reaching 517 pounds in November, losing a bit, then signing off entirely. 2020, like for many people, an overall outlier of a year, but in Amber's case, it's an outlier of a year with very similar end results. Full disclosure, I fully believe Amberlynn Reid had cancer and a hysterectomy because she's 500 pounds, has neglected her physical and mental health her entire life, has refused to see consistent medical professionals, and overall has no real ability to be independent or take care of themselves. She's shared in multiple videos that she has hyper-irregular menstruation patterns.
When you're obese, especially as big as me, your hormones are not going to be normal. My whole life I've always had an irregular period, so I never really thought anything of it when over 2 years ago I started bleeding, and I bled every single day. Be on it for like a couple days, and then I wouldn't have it for sometimes like 2 years, you know, which according to the doctors, they said it was because of my weight. I had the option of taking birth control, but I never wanted to, da da da.
And she just didn't bother to figure that out. By the way, if you don't have a uterus, you typically go to the OBGYN, that fun little specialist that talks to you exclusively about your bits, about these type of situations. Irregular patterns are common. Being regularly irregular is just how some people function. With a consistent annual visit, everyone can be on the same page, so that way if anything does happen that's different or negative, everyone has a baseline of where we're at.
And that's why I feel like it's so important to go to your doctor, to go to the gyno. And I prolonged it for so long.
Watching her tell us to go to the doctor is like seeing someone huffing paint and then seeing them cry that huffing paint was really bad for them. And we're all just up here giving a thumbs up like, yeah, we know. We already don't do that, but glad you're finally getting that memo. 2019 was the heaviest we have seen Amberlynn since she began her channel. And it must have been incredibly miserable. I mean, we know it was. We all have eyeballs. But it was miserable enough for her to reach an actual limit of what she can tolerate weight-wise. She's been morbidly obese her entire life, and the 570s were just the final limit for their hygiene, activity, and mobility. It looked miserable. We all could tell. No one willingly sits while cooking. That's a TLC featured move. Amberlynn has declared she was housebound bedbound in 2019. I mean, years after the fact. But with her, the truth is like a very, very slow boomerang she throws, where she thinks it's less of a lie if it's slowly dripped or revealed eventually.
Being in denial and lying are two completely different things. I was in denial. I was in denial that I was bedbound. Being bedbound to me was you had to have your significant other or pay a friend to come bathe you, and there was a large portion of 2019, if not the whole 2019, where I literally couldn't shower. I bathed in bed.
Which does a lot of damage with her reputation when she spends so much time denying something or omitting it. It's a bunch of half-truths or her saying she doesn't understand something. I understand why people to this day are very skeptical of her cancer journey. But then you might think, who would lie about having cancer? That's pretty deranged. Which, I agree, it's something her audience could truly sympathize with. But the most disturbing part of 2020 is that it wasn't enough to motivate her at all going forward with the weight loss she had going in Q2. If we look at the chart, and if we remove the diagnosis, the procedure, and the recovery, it's like cancer wasn't even really there at all. Just another blip of something external occurring to her that she had to deal with, thankfully recovered from, and continued on making choices as if the situation had no real effect on them at all. Not personally, not emotionally, not physically.
2 of the chocolate cake pops.
It's like it never even happened. 2020, a lot of us had to sit at home and evaluate life because of the whole global pandemic thing that killed around 3 million people. Some were isolating for their safety, others were drinking bleach and denying that it was even happening. It's a year I try not to remember. This time period didn't really impact Amberlynn in any way. She stayed home all day anyways. Her house elf did all the actual chores, errands and food delivery if some stranger online didn't run and grab food to throw at their house 2 to 4 times a day. No halt in income from YouTube. She was scared of the medical atmosphere, sure, but not enough to actually do anything preventative. One of her constants. COVID was the worst. Everyone's daily lives were upheaved with millions losing their income. We were all stuck at home, and some of us had the hell of explaining how Zoom works to tech-challenged family and coworkers.
I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
It became glaringly obvious how different some people lived life in the pandemic compared to the average individual. I couldn't fly myself out to a private island with friends and family. I couldn't get a COVID test ASAP. I couldn't make the same amount of money staying home making sourdough like very wealthy people could. Being resentful of wealthy people that had no financial or physical inhibitors during COVID was very palpable, especially if they were being glaringly tone deaf of the plights of the average person.
The people
living for today.
Amberlynn, funny enough, is more like Kim Kardashian than I ever will be in this regard. She made a lot of money doing nothing. That income really didn't change much. And it's not like staying at home all day was any change. This is where I think a lot of people were getting wise to how comfortable Amberlynn's life was as a whole. Besides being 500 pounds, it's a cushy life. She has no issues making rent or risking exposure to a harmful virus. She already never saw her family. She already lived online. She already had everything brought to her. She already didn't go to the doctor. Nothing changed at all besides her postcode when moving to Lexington. That aggravated a lot of people that did not have that same level of privilege despite not being 500 pounds and not being a lolcow online, who through no fault of their own were really struggling during the pandemic. My personal savings reached 0 because my income was cut, but rent's due. I was very stressed and concerned for myself. I have an autoimmune disease. I wanted to see people. I'm very extroverted, but I couldn't. I was far away from friends and family. I had no money. I went 3 months without physically touching another person. So seeing someone like Amberlynn do nothing with the second chance was infuriating.
As you can see, I have gained some weight. Thank you, estrogen. I've had grits like twice in my life, and I'm telling you, it's been years. So
I've talked in depth before on her inability to partition constructive criticism from malicious bullying. Any critique makes us fatphobic and hateful, and not just people with eyeballs noticing a grown adult with incredibly dysfunctional and destructive habits make the same mistake over and over again.
Since you guys want me to go outside, I want to go outside. We all want to go outside. We need that vitamin D, because I just feel like staying indoors, especially because I feel like...
Why is she acting like like she's doing this for the viewers? Like, the viewers want you to do this for your own good, sis. The viewers want you to get outside because normal people go outside every day.
And the sad thing is, I am not a normal person, Zach. I think you've been around long enough to know that I'm not a normal person. I suffer with a lot of mental problems, and a lot of those things keep me indoors, a lot of them. And I just don't think it's okay for you to kind of judge someone based on that.
Perhaps myself and or other people are frustrated that she doesn't go out or that she doesn't make any improvements on these things is because she has a lot of privilege in opting to not address her issues, right? Like, she is lucky to have a job where she can work from home, where she can work from Pillow Mountain. She doesn't have to leave the house if she doesn't want to, but a lot of people are not that fortunate, and I think that that's where the frustration about this comes from, right?
This is what I think she hears whenever she hears any form of critique or criticism about anything she does.
Open the door or I'm gonna throw rocks through your windows, you dumb whore.
This is where I think if you're an Amber Reid viewer or have awareness of their channel, you likely fall into 3 different categories. You're either a fan, someone that enjoys watching Amberlynn's videos and whatever she does. Maybe you relate to her, maybe something she does you enjoy, or you can empathize a lot with her life. But you're always going to give a thumbs up. They can do it. They're the underdog, and you're rooting for them. So when they win, it's a double victory. A hater is someone that either was a fan and got sick of her nonsense and generally just wishes for her to do something to improve herself. They're realistic and they know it probably won't happen, but they do want something to happen. Long-term viewers usually transition from fan to hater after realizing that the underdog they're cheering for is just the coach and players setting the team bus on fire themselves. Haters usually give very critical and very accurate statements on Amberlynn's choices and patterns. They are aware of what she does. They have watched the patterns. Even if she doesn't remember what she did, we do. Not all haters are very vocal. A lot of them just kind of like to watch the train wreck, because that's what this is. This human's life is a train wreck. And it keeps crashing repeatedly, over and over and over again, which is why people keep tuning in. There are a lot of people giving good advice, ways to maybe stay on track, but they just keep rearing it into every destructible firewall they can. Being this train wreck has really garnered them the most attention. So as much as they don't want to be considered one, they are, and that's what's been paying the bills for a very long time. Then we have haters. Haters are the ones that like to dox, post pictures in the wild, but with people posting weird videos and doxing them and like all that stuff, that just gives me the ick. I know if you're in public, you are open to public people filming you and taking pictures. I get that. I just think it's kind of gross and icky. But the thing is, I don't want to dox her. I don't want to find anything out about their personal life. I really don't care about it all. And I think it's weird when people do look up stuff about their family and things like that. That's really not my business, and I feel like you could use that vitriol for people that deserve it, like politicians. Because then we have the worst type of Lynn, smug Lynn. It's usually just Amberlynn and haters that do things that make me go, ugh. Hate all you want, I just think it gets a little nasty when it gets in real life. Cards on the table, I wasn't in Girl World yet at this time. I didn't get sucked in until the following year. I was too busy baking bread and watching Tiger King and panicking. But I did meet somebody that was a fan and then became a hater, and they overall are a long-term watcher. So I'll be interviewing someone that has been around since almost the beginning. Hello everybody, I would like to introduce Flower. They were an OG Girl World member. They're a beautiful plant, they smell amazing, and I love them, Daddy, and we're getting married. They've been very kind to spend their time answering some of my questions as someone who had boots on the ground during this time period. When did you enter the Amberverse, proper? What drew you in?
I started as I would like to think most people started, which was I was fresh out of college, 2015. I was in a completely new city. I was alone. And I was in the process of trying to figure out how to better myself as a person. And so I came upon this recommended creator in 2015 YouTube time of this 400-pound woman at the time who was documenting her weight loss. And, you know, I jived with it. It was, I think it was during Destiny, but it was early.
What was the appeal overall? Was it just that camaraderie that you were stating?
I think so. I think it did to me give off that initial young adults just trying to have a fun time out in the world. And I definitely think I related to probably to the loneliness that she was feeling at that time, because it really was just Destiny and Destiny's friends.
What occurred for you to transition from being a viewer with positive intentions and hope for their channel and themselves to hate watching? Like, was it a slow process? Was it one thing in particular? Like, what?
Initially, it was at fault of the YouTube algorithm because I remember watching, like, Destiny and Amber videos that were, like, compilations of them being a couple, and those would be recommended to me. Then I guess it started recommending other people that would put compilations together. And I think YouTube algorithm at that point in time functioned with Amberlynn and compilation and just recommended anything that fell under that umbrella. So I did start watching more Hate Watchers. And I think that was the one where when I finally started going back and like re-catching up to actual Amberlynn videos, I definitely came in with a different view, for sure.
Because they always say that people take what she says and spins it incorrectly, or that they're not really seeing what they're seeing with their eyes or thinking with their own brains. They're just kind of latching on to like the more hater mindset. Do you feel like re-looking, you kind of had like the rose-colored glasses kind of removed, double-checking it again? Or
I legitimately, I think I watched it as like something to wash over me and something I wanted to see. So I guess, yeah, rose-colored glasses. I saw what I wanted to see. And then I had finally reached a point within my life and my career where I was watching more as, I don't need this for myself. I just do this I just watch for entertainment. Which then I guess made me watch it more closely.
Just because it's healthy doesn't mean that you need a huge portion. I mean, it's not really healthy, like cream cheese and bacon.
Yeah, I don't think I truly fell off the Amberlynn Reid wagon until at least a year into Bex, when I just, the cycle was just so much clearer then. Because it wasn't as diffused with all of the hapdashery that was going on with Destiny, and it was a lot more sitting and a lot more not doing. And it, I think, unfortunately for her, brought a lot more attention to the Amber cycle.
if you'd like to see the rest of the interview, check out the channel. I'll have it linked somewhere. So, 2020 was likely different for you than it was for Amberlynn. But I can say I am positive most of us had some improvement or alteration since then. I would like to keep that nightmare year in the past. But at least we know that eventually in 2021, we get to witness Amberlynn flounder any ability of improvement again and again. So if you're a fan, I get it. We all love rooting for an underdog. For haters, this probably can't be that good for the soul. Maybe just email hateful things to politicians instead. For the rest of us in Category 2, grab some popcorn, and we got a train to keep watching. Dobby gets their metaphorical sock, and the rest of us get to watch an adult suffer through day-to-day life when they could just, I don't know, try. What else are you going to do with that second chance?
They gave me 2 chips, although I asked for an apple, but that's okay.
When you come up and visit the Greater Wynnewood Exotic Animal Park here in Wynnewood, Oklahoma, and you're a smoker or you'd like a cocktail, we have it for you. The Tiki Bar. Open the entire time that the park is open, so come down and have a beer with us. Smoke a cigarette if you need to. I'm Joe Exotic, and we'll make sure that you have a good time.